Let's try that again. Hello, welcome to Between Two Slopes. Hopefully there's sound now. Let me know if there's not. But a couple housekeeping items, right? Things are different. It's just me, no Austin. We'll see him every now and again, but we're in my office. I got my skis hung up, and I'm really excited to uh, continue Between Two Slopes. I've got a fun episode, or at least I think it's fun, episode to talk about today, and we're going to be designing skis. If you guys have any questions as we're going through, drop them in the chat, and I'd love to answer those, go over any things that you might have. We're going to be in a program called snocad, and it's, for those of you familiar with like a CAD system, it's like a dumbed down CAD system just for skis and snowboards. So we'll be diving in there to talk about running length and effective edge and side cut radius and all sorts of fun stuff that go into making a ski, right? And why I thought that this was important is, as you know how a ski is made, right? Like what a side cut radius does, why does your nose width matter, or why does the height of the nose of the ski matter, stuff like this. You can take this information, go back, look at your skis, and see what it was designed and made to do well, versus, just skiing and not knowing where your sweet spot is on your ski. That term sweet spot is used a lot in the industry for just like how to get your ski to perform at the highest level, right? So let's dive into it. I'm stoked. Let me know if anything needs to change sound-wise or video-wise, but let's do this thing. So, like I said before, this is snocad. I used this for some projects in college to design some skis. Actually, this model that you're seeing here is actually this model of ski right here. So I won a competition and I got to design a pair of skis, and I designed this all mountain ski, and now here it is. It's a little different than how it was designed originally, because I wanted to do certain things, right? You can see this has a rounded tail. This one over here has got a flat tail. I was limited by the company's available molds, but it's okay. It worked out. Super cool experience. I'm excited to share some of that with you guys and dive into this. So let's do it. Like I said, this is that ski, the Archer. And why I wanted to start with this is because, you can see how a ski would look when it's done, and then we can even build one together as we keep going through this. So this ski is a 102. You can see right here. If it'll let me highlight, it won't. Right underneath where I'm highlighted, 102 waist width. Now that's important because, your waist width determines a lot of things, right? It directly impacts your side cut, directly impacts your turn radius, it directly impacts your float as well as your weight, right? Like all of these different factors. So that's why waist width is such a anchor when you're talking about skis, or such a starting point, because that is a really definitive number or important number to understanding the performance of the ski, right? So this is a 102, which is in that all mountain category, but it's a little bit on the wider side of the all mountain category. And I designed it that way because I ski in Utah, so I like having a little more waist width in order to allow me to float and go off piste, but also be able to carve still pretty well, right? And you can see here we have our overall length and our running length at the top. So the overall length, because this is all in millimeters, right? This is 1,850 millimeters, but it's really 185 centimeters, right? Which is normally how we measure skis. So that's right around where I like to be that 185 range. So my bent shellers are 184. I'm pretty sure these Devastators are 186. These are 185. And then my Gauchos are 186 over here. So yeah, I like being right around there, but it's different for everyone depending on a couple different factors. Next is you'll see the running length. Now, running length and overall length are different in the aspect of, here, I'll move this up so you can see a little better. So here you have the overall length is tip to tip, right? Where running length is simply the amount of ski that's actually touching the snow. So between here and here is that running length. Now that's really important to keep in mind because the edge of the ski, which is how we used to brake and turn and stop, right, is directly impacted by the amount of running edge that you have, right? So if your ski has a running edge that starts all the way over here, you're not going to have as much stopping power because you don't have as much effective edge to be able to get that ski to maneuver the way you want, if that makes sense. So those green skis are slag, learned to Fern. So you always want to keep that in mind if you're looking at a ski, if you're looking at purchasing a ski, or if you're looking up to like design a ski, you want to make sure you have enough running length that you can have the effective edge to stop, right? So a lot of skis now, or back in the day, and even like racing skis, they have a flat tail so that they can have more running length to give more carvability and stopping power. So next we have like nose length, right? How long? So that would start here and go to here. And really what that's going to determine is, that part of the ski will not be touching the snow regularly. But if you enter any soft conditions or choppy conditions, this amount of shovel will help you to, float out of it or stay on top of it. Same thing with the tail, just in the back. And then the width of the nose and tail also play a factor with what your waist width ends up being, right? So this is really cool because this is where you can play around a lot with, how wide it is and how much float you would get versus how narrow you can make it and how sharp you can make your turns. So a company that always comes to mind when I think about how wide like a nose of a ski is Icelandic skis. They're made in Colorado in the Never Summer factory, and they have some of the largest noses. So to give you like a reference, my bent Chettlers right here, their nose width is like 142 if I'm not mistaken, and then they're a 120 base or 120 waist, right? And on one of Icelandic's most popular skis, the Nomad 105 is a 105, so it's more like this guy, but its nose is wider than the bent Chettlers. And they do that because it allows more surf, and they can kind of create more of a dynamic ski, having the difference there, right? Because that's what's going to make that ski carve and perform the way that it wants to. But it's just really unique how they can play with that. So down to tail width, kind of the same. Side cut radius is something that is another big, point or big number to look at when you're buying a ski, because that's the number that will tell you how well you're turning and how well that ski's going to pivot, right? So something with a really long turn radius, so something like 30 meters, that ski isn't going to want to turn as easily as something with a really short radius, something like 12 meters, right? And once again, this is in millimeters, but this ski here has a 12-meter turn radius, and that would be considered pretty tight, right? And I designed it that way so that I could perform in the trees, like pivot in the trees really easy, but also I could make decent carves. Now, as we keep going down, you have like your stance width, and for this program, it doesn't really do a lot. It's actually just like maps out where you'd put your bindings. Every ski is a little different. I really like twin tip skis, so usually my stance width is just right in the middle. Yeah, but it depends on the ski. So that's the Archer. And now that we kind of have some ground rules, we're going to go in and make a ski as if, we were going to send this to a company to develop it for us, right? Which is the dream. So we'll go ahead and minimize this and blow this up. Now we can run a ski, right? So one thing that we always want to start with is camber, right? Like the profile. So when you're looking at camber versus rocker, I used to really think that camber wasn't that cool. Like, oh, every ski's got camber. Like, oh, skis that are just rocker are way better because like they're unique. But really, the reason there's so much camber in skis in the market right now is because it's really awesome, right? It does a lot. So my Devastators right here, they don't have any camber, and there's things that I like about it, and there's things that I really don't like about it. Like it just wears on you as the day goes on because there's nothing giving your energy back, right? So we're gonna make a cambered ski today. We'll start around. We'll do like a little more of a punchy ski, so like 5 millimeters of camber. So that way when you apply weight to the ski, it'll just bite that snow. Obviously, the more camber you have, the more bite you have, but also if you really have a lot of bite and aggression on that camber height, the ski's gonna start being like overly responsive, if that makes sense. So if you're into that, find a ski with a grip load of camber. You'll love it. So we'll build this based off of me, right? So I'm an expert skier, 6'1". I usually like to ski around a 186, like we said before. So I know that I'm going to want my overall length to be about a 186. Now I need to decide, what's my running length going to be? How much stopping power do I have? And this is really going to determine, before we even get into running length, we would want to decide, is this going to be a park ski? Is this going to be an all-mountain ski? Is this going to be, a powder ski? What do we want the ski to look like? And so what I'm actually going to do is create I'm thinking we do like a all-mountain, more of a powder ski. So I'm thinking like a 106 to 108. With that, we want like a decent amount of running length, but we don't need like a ton. We probably want a good sized nose and a good sized tail. The tail of the ski will also create less of forgiveness too, so we'll keep that in mind. So let's give it a try. Okay, let's dive in here. So stance width, we'll go ahead. So my boots are 295 millimeters, right? So if this was going to be right exactly to me, we'd want, so 295 would be like right here. There's 300. But then our binding is going to be another bit. And so a lot of companies, when they develop skis or build skis, they actually will put a layer of Titanol just underneath your boot here. Because what that does is it gives something the binding to grip to when your tech mounts it, but it also gives you a little more stability and a little more rigidity underfoot, which a lot of people like, right? Because that's where you really want your strength to come through if you're really making a hard turn. So a lot of companies will do that, even on powder skis. They'll have like a mounting plate is what it's called. So now let's go into waist width. So this program's really cool because I can just grab these and manipulate them however I want. And you can see the numbers over on this left-hand side change, right? So currently it's a 105. We said we wanted to be like 106, 107. I'm thinking let's start off with a 108. A really popular 108 ski would be like the Wildcat, the Moment Wildcat 108. That's really like made a name for itself in the 108 space. obviously, because everyone loves that ski, and that's a great brand. So then we see that our nose width is like 130, and that's making our turn radius 28.1 meters, right? So this ski, because of how different, or how not as different as it could be, the ski's really straight, and that's what's making our turn radius really high. So if we want this ski to pivot better and maneuver better, we're going to want to increase our nose width and our tail width, which I'm here for because, once again, it's going to create more float. If we're going to be in that 108 space, like, we're going to be wanting to be in the powder and off-piste more than on-piste, right? So when people are looking at skis, I usually ask them, like, how often do you want to be in the trees, or how often do you want to be on-piste, right? Like on a groomed run. And if they're like, oh, 50-50, then something like a 104 is good. If they're saying like, oh, I want to be, 70% on the groomed slopes and like 30%, then dropping down to like a 98 or even a 90 will really accommodate that individual. So this being a 108, we know that it's almost going to be flipped, right? This person's going to be skiing like 60 to 70% off piste, and then like 40 to 30% on piste, right? So we'll keep that in mind as we continue to build here. So, excuse me, sorry, my mouse is having a hard day today. So we're going to go ahead and make this lighter. I'm thinking 145. I'll go with 146, that's cool. And you see, as I built that, it actually changed my waist width right here. So as I continue to change all sorts of dimensions, because the dimensions all work together, we'll go back and make sure that everything is lined up how we want it to be. But we'll make that 146. I like having the tail be roughly, like, not too much of a difference between the nose. And what I mean by that is I don't want like 146 to 100. I want something a little more gradual. So I would do like 146 to like 130, right? 16 millimeters difference. Boom, there we go. So now we're going to want to, once again, we'll come back and manipulate some other things here. But right now our running length is, it's actually pretty good. 146, overall length is 173. So let's make our nose longer so that we're able to get the float that we want in the ski that we want, right? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna grab this and simply stretch it. And I don't want to go all the way to 186 because I want a little more tail too. So I'm just gonna grab this and stretch it. Let's go to there. And we'll suck this one back. Boom, there we go. So now you might be looking, being like, Trent, ski looks weird. It's a weird looking ski. Like, what is this shape? What are you doing? And you're not wrong. This is weird. But we're not done yet. So, really, like, let's manipulate height of the nose, height of the tail, and then we can get into some of the shape building, which is probably some of my favorite parts, because I want it to look clean and look like, if you were gonna look at like some of these skis, you can see that the nose, like, it flows really seamlessly down into the way they taper down, right? So like, you want something that people can look at and say, oh, that's really smooth, that's really crafted, or whatever, right? So let's give it a shot. Is this what skis companies use to design their skis? So it's very similar, right? This is something that they could use, right? But they're probably diving into a lot more specs. They're probably using like a very professional CAD system, where this is kind of dumbed down for college kids. But for our purposes, it's really great, and I really like messing around in here. So I'm sure they have something much grander, but yeah, What's your favorite part of the designing skis? So I really like actually the materials, getting into the materials, and that's what really makes me kind of sad about my Archers is I was limited on what materials I could put in there. Like it's a full poplar ski, and I actually wanted my Archers to have um, what was it? It wasn't Polonia, but it was a more durable wood. I think it was maple and bamboo stringers is what I wanted because I wanted it to be a little heavier but have a little spring to it. Um, and this ski, full poplar with 2 sheets of fiberglass, triaxle fiberglass, ended up being like 1,300 grams a ski, 1,400 grams a ski. It's like too light for me because when I get up to speed, it just makes me feel like I'm gonna die. So it's really great skiing in the trees, right? Because you don't want to get up to too much speed in the trees, but everywhere else, it just makes me nervous. So, yeah, great question though. Thank you. All right, let's see if my mouse will wake up. There we go. So we're going to just adjust the height here. Oh man, my mouse is really having a hard time. Please hold. There we go. There we go. Okay. So currently my nose height is like 50 millimeters off. You can off the ground, which is actually pretty good. That's actually probably where I want to keep it. And my tail is 44. I'm gonna drop that just a little bit because I don't want this to be like a true, like I want this to be directional. I don't want it to be like a true twin. So I might even drop it to like 35 and drop my nose to 55 just for numbers sake, right? There we go. Maybe. There we go. Perfect. 55. There it says right here. So nose width 146, tail width is 130, waist width is way higher than we anticipated. Right now, this is very, this is like a powder ski with a weird looking nose and tail, right? So let's see if we can get this back down to the 108 while keeping some of our dimensions together and shooting for that side cut radius that we want. So we're going to go ahead and grab that middle. See if we can't get it to be where we want it to be. Okay. So, and once again, you can see it like I can move it forward or back. So that's referring to its mounting point, right? And every ski is a little different. And one ski that I really think of is, the Bencheller 100. That ski's mounted at like 9 back from center, 9 centimeters back from center because of the way that the nose, there's way more nose than there is tail on that ski. But free riders will actually mount it closer to center. Some people will mount it at like 7.5, while other people will mount it even closer to center and use it as a park ski, right? So it all depends on the ski and the shape. The shape's really what's going to define your mount point more than anything else. So we'll look at that. That's kind of like one of the last steps. But let's see if we can get back down to where we want to get to. 114. There's 110 and 108. Side cut bias. We'll just leave it right there for now. Okay, so now we got this funky looking nose and tail. So, like I said, I like a twin tip. We could grab this and make it like really square. Something like that. I don't love square tip skis. I understand that people do, and they serve a purpose when it comes to like if you were gonna go backcountry skiing, it's easier to like put your skins on a flat ski. But I'm not doing those things. So we're not gonna do a flat tail. We're gonna do something more like that. And then the nose, once again, we can just grab this. And this is what I love about it. Like, we could get crazy, you know? But we're not gonna do that. Not too crazy. Because we want it to look really clean. Something that someone, like I said before, someone would look at and say, I could tell that that ski has like a good shape and good direction to it. So we'll go like right there. Yeah, something like that. So that's looking more like a ski, right? In the shape that we want. So now let's review our numbers. We're at 185 length, overall length, which is right where we want to be. Running length is 146, nose length 226, so that's pretty good. It might even be like a little short for what we're looking for. But really when we're trading nose length and tail length for running length, right? The more nose that we have, like I said before, the less stopping power we're going to have because the less running length we have, right? So we want to have a decent amount of running length so that we can have some good stopping power. So we'll leave it there for now. Nose width 146, that's solid. Waist width solid. We're at that 108 mark. We got 5 meters of camber, so this thing's going to bite pretty good. Our turn radius is a little over 17 and a half, right? We got 17.85. So this ski is like right in the middle when it comes to turn radius, which is really great. Like if you take a look at like the Solomon stance, I think it's like a 112 with like it has like a 15 meter turn radius or something like that. I don't know how they did it. It pivots on a dime. So this would perform. It wouldn't pivot quite the same as that, but it would give me the carve that I would want. So that's a pretty good ski right there. I actually really like how it turned out. So yeah, this is how it's done. Now you can go back and look at your own ski and say, you know, how much nose do I have? How much running length do I have? Does my ski, am I set back farther on my ski? And if I am set farther back on my skis, am I leaning into my boots enough to get the play or get the action out of the ski that I want, right? Because if you're mounted in the center, so if you take like the Bent Chetler 120, for example, that ski is only like 2.5 back from center. So it's almost like a true twin tip ski. You're almost right in the middle of it. And because of that, you want to make sure that you're skiing that with a stance that's pretty like upright, right? But if you're skiing like a race ski or something like these MSPs over here, they have more ski in front of the binding than behind the binding. And the reason that is because you lean forward on that ski, it will engage the tips and allow you to make really clean carves, right? So knowing this information about your skis will help you understand how to ski it better and find that sweet spot, right? So look at your skis. If you see that your ski, has a flat tail or a more traditional tail and has more ski in front than behind, then engage your boots a little more. You'll see that ski come alive. And then on that same hand, if you're on like a park ski or you're more center mounted, but you've really been driving your boots, you might consider backing off your boots and having a more straight up stance to see how that impacts how the ski pivots and turns, right? So keep those things in mind as you're looking at your skis or looking to purchase new skis, because that's what makes the ski shine, right? So that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to drop them in the comments. Normally, when I was with Austin, our episodes would go like 45 minutes to an hour, but I don't have anyone to like bounce ideas and topics off of. So I'm hoping to stay around the 30-minute mark, but that can change depending as comments come in and different questions are being asked. So let me know if you guys have any thoughts or comments you'd like to share. And if this is something cool, we can do it again. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to journeying with you, not into the pine because we're not that anymore, but going between two slopes with you guys. So thank you so much and have a wonderful night.